Hello everybody, I'm Kyle Edward with ThisIsDrive, and today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the all-new 2018 Buick Regal. Now for 2018, it's actually available in a couple different body styles. We have this all-new Sportsback styling, as well as the TourX version, which is actually more of a station wagon, meant for people who want a little bit extra space. Maybe they want to throw a kayak on top and go out in the mountains. Well, now you can do that in your Buick. The Regal starts around $24,000, can go up to around $32,000 depending on the trim level you choose, and then there's also a top-of-the-line high-performance GS model still, and that starts at around $40,000. But hey, let's go on the road, take it for a drive, and we'll talk more about the car there. Now, as I was saying, the Buick Regal is all new for 2018. That includes both a full exterior redesign and interior as well. I feel like they've kept a lot of the good, DNA that came from the original Regal, and they put it in, to this new model. So first, looking at the exterior of the vehicle, I really can appreciate the new styling and design language they went with, right? So from the front, we're looking at it, we have the nice Buick logo with colors reintroduced into it, and then out from there, there's some nice chrome pieces that sort of make it look like it's flying, right? So the chrome pieces meet the logo in the middle, the center, and then they come out nicely, and it just looks very, very fresh, and I also enjoyed the large front grille with nice large slats, and it looks very mature and studious, like a Regal might. Now, the name's also very good as well, Regal, and I feel that Buick with this new design has really captured that name and what it means. So, driving a Buick has always been interesting, right? Because there's Cadillac and there's Chevy, and Buick needs to sort of fill the gap between the high-end luxury and then just the basic Chevrolet vehicles that we have, right? So Buick's come along with the Regal and said, hey, you know what, it's upgraded from an Impala, it looks more unique, has some better powertrain options, but of course it's no Cadillac either, and that's alright, it doesn't have a price to match, right? So again, the Regal starts around $25,000 base. That includes cloth seats, and they're actually manually adjustable. I feel like, they should up the price maybe another $1,000 or $2 just to make it leather standard, right? But anyway, that's not my job. So looking again at the side of the vehicle, right? So there are two defining lines in the side, right? So one is along the door handle, and it offers a very nice mix of lines when you combine it with the bottom line that sort of sticks out, right? So at the front of the vehicle, there's an indentation between those two lines from the top to the bottom, and then as they move along to the rear of the vehicle, as you can see, it sort of jets out, right? Jets out to the back, right? And then it lets loose. And that's a nice sweeping design language that we have there, and I really enjoy it. I feel like it looks very sporty, and it really, like I said, the back flares out almost like a muscle car. And obviously, well, this is no muscle car by any means. I enjoy that design language, and I feel it speaks to the sporty nature of the Regal. The rear of the vehicle looks pretty nice as well. It's more basic, more subdued, but I appreciate the long rear roofline. And you can really see that Sportsback look come together there, as it has a long sloping rear glass panel, and it leads down into the nice LED rear lights. Now, the front also have LED daytime running lights, and they are stunning. I absolutely love the design that they went with there. So there's actually two individual LED light bars. You're seeing that a lot. It looks like an Audi, honestly, right? So there's just a very large LED light, and there's two of them, and it's a bar, so it's not individual lights, it's actually an LED bar, and it looks very cool, as you can see from the screen. And it also doubles as the blinker, so if you put your blinker on, it turns from just the standard white light to the yellow blinker light. And there's also LED bulbs in there as well that we have, of course, that light up the road very, very well at night. Full LED lights all the way around, and that speaks to the quality and higher standard that you get when you purchase a Buick Regal. But overall, from a styling and design aspect, I definitely like where they're going. It looks sleeker than the previous Regal, has that lower rear cut roofline, which looks great, and I feel that it will be accepted into the design community very well, and actually known as a very good design because of its sleek nature. And especially when I first saw it, I thought, wow, that's like a car that I would really like to drive. And I feel that it also fits better with the sporty nature of the GS, the full-blown performance model of the Regal, which before was good, and I enjoyed that car for what it was. But now with the new design, I feel like it can really go up against some of the other vehicles like the A4 and stuff like that in this segment that previously, maybe from a design standpoint, you couldn't, but now you can. So that's fantastic. Now, stepping on into the interior, I was just slightly disappointed because the previous Regal actually had better seats. They had higher quality, better leather, and they were softer. So I feel like the quality actually may have went down a tiny bit from the previous model. But as far as a design standpoint, I do appreciate the new open design of this vehicle more. Now, they also sort of dialed the gauge display and the center stack, including the heat controls and air vents and all that, towards the driver just a little bit, showing that the car is actually more driver focused than it used to be. It used to be a very flat center stack, but now it's tilted ever so slightly towards the driver, which gives you a little bit more confidence, honestly, when driving it. It feels a little more like a driver's car. I really like the control knobs for the Hvac system. There's an automotive course. You have your heated and cooled seats. In this model, we only have the heated seats, but you can get cooled seats as an option. And the buttons are nice, and I feel like the display is very crisp, very clear, and I like the design of that. Moving to the side, you'll see this sort of like jetting out again, sort of indicates how it's centered towards the driver a little bit. This nice large, well, it's honestly plastic. I want to say leather. It would be nice if it was leather, but it's not. A plastic piece here, and it sort of incorporates the side right where the passenger is into where the driver is and shapes down. There's some wood trim in here. I believe it's fake. It looks pretty good though. No complaints about that. It ties in together the interior pretty well. Now, just below the infotainment system, there's a piano black finish plastic melded right into a nice chrome piece which runs along the center stack area for the multimedia system. That is met with a rubberized, plastic dashboard panel. There's also some stitching in it as well, which gives it just a little bit more design, so it doesn't look as basic, as like maybe a Malibu where they sort of slap a big plastic slab in there. This at least, has a little bit of a design to it, which is appreciated. I like what they did with the interior design here, because we have this two-tone interior color, and it's very noticeable, and I really enjoy it. So the front dashboard, which encompasses the multimedia system, basically, the upper part of the dashboard here, is in this black trim. You move down like a waterfall, and now it's becoming a cream interior. So the cream portion of the interior encompasses the HVAC controls, and then the multimedia system is still covered with this black material. So I like that we have this sort of two-tone going on here. It makes the interior look more separated and more open, which I can appreciate. Now, the steering wheel in this car is another slight gripe of mine, because the old steering wheel in the Regal, I loved it a lot. It had some nice large bolsters on it. The buttons were very well put together, in my opinion. But on the new one, surprisingly enough, I feel like the quality was lost a little bit. The buttons feel a little bit cheaper. The steering wheel is does not have as large bolstering on it, and this feels all around a little bit less well made. Now, I understand that they're trying to go with more of a sleek profile with this vehicle, and so with that in mind, I understand that they're wanting a smaller wheel, right? Something a little easier to grip onto because of sort of the profile of this vehicle. The older one was a little bulkier. This one's trying to be more streamlined, so I understand the design aspect behind a smaller wheel in this vehicle, but still a little bit disappointing with the material quality. It feels like it could just be, a little softer, a little bit better. Moving along to tech, we have GM's pretty standard system here. It's in Chevy and Buick vehicles. Well, it's a touch screen. It has your navigation, your phone capabilities. You got your climate control, your audio, your Bluetooth streaming. A nice feature that it does have, which again is in all of the Chevrolet, Buick, and Cadillac products, that's Wi-Fi broadcasting. So you get in your car and you can broadcast Wi-Fi to all of your wireless devices, which is convenient for those long road trips, obviously. Bluetooth streaming again is of course there. And we also have the top row buttons. So if you're on a screen, for instance, the radio screen, you want to go to the navigation, there's just a quick press of a button at the top, so you don't have to hit the home button. I like how they've combined some physical buttons as well as a touch screen. So you have your back button, your home button, some radio skip buttons, and I like again that it's combined. It's a little bit, makes it a little quicker, a little easier to use than just a full-on touch screen system. This system is pretty basic. I feel like they could do a little bit of a better job making it look more appealing, but for the most part, it gets the job done overall. In the center, we have the Regal gauges, and I've always been a fan. They're these nice red dials, and then it's backed up along with a unique gauge display which has some design elements into it, right? So it's not just flat like a lot of gauge displays. It's actually raised around the outskirts, and it comes down into the center, which looks pretty cool, as you can see on the screen there. It's better than what we see on a lot of vehicles. The center screen controls your pretty basic information. You have your speed, your fuel economy, your different trips, your fuel range, your instant fuel economy, oil life, tire pressure. You have some very exciting things there that we have going on. You can also view your audio controls, navigation, and phone controls as well through that system. Again, it's a little bit basic. I feel like they could do a better job with the design of how that all comes together, but it gets the job done nevertheless. Lastly, we shall talk about how the all-new Regal drives, because that's very important. The Regal is one of Buick's best-selling vehicles, and it is geared towards a more sporty crowd than maybe, let's say, a LaCrosse, right? So when they came out with this vehicle, they knew, hey, you know what? We have to do something that's pretty sporty, that's really going to capture the driving dynamic of how we want the Regal to act and behave on the road. And they did an excellent job. I am really satisfied with how the all-new Regal drives. So first, let's talk about the powertrain. In all of the base models and all the way up until the Premier model, outside of the GS gets an entirely different powertrain. But for all the Regal line, no matter which trim level you go, you get a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, putting out a modest 250 horsepower at 5,400 RPMs. However, they really get you here 260 pound-feet of torque at 2,000 RPMs, and that range band goes all the way to 5,200. So you get a ton of pull right off the line, plenty of horsepower, plenty of torque, makes this thing go to 60 miles an hour in just 6.2 seconds. Now the curb weight on this car is around 3,900 pounds. So, they've also done, a good job keeping the weight fairly low for the size of the vehicle, and then adding that great powertrain in there. Now, again, as I mentioned it earlier, you can actually get the Regal in both a front-wheel drive version and an all-wheel drive version. And that's something that I feel can be very appealing to a lot of different buyers, depending on the different climate you drive in, or just, maybe you want a sportier drive and you go for the all-wheel drive to get the extra grip and handling. If you go for the front-wheel drive model, you'll actually get a 9-speed automatic transmission, which I'll dig into in just a moment. But then the all-wheel drive models actually get an 8-speed transmission, surprisingly enough. So, yeah, I have not driven the 8-speed, so I can't speak to it. But I can tell you the 9-speed in this is fantastic. I absolutely love this transmission that GM has come out with. It's also in the Chevy Traverse and a few other models, and it's trickling in, and it's fantastic. Very crisp, very smooth shifts. It's not hunting for gears. It knows exactly which one to be in at what time, and oh man, it's just these crisp shifts that you get. Oh, they're so smooth. It reminds me of driving a German car. Very, very well tuned. Now again, I can't speak to the 8-speed, but if it's anything like the 9-speed, you'll be very pleased. Something I'm actually fairly disappointed with. There is no drive mode selector, surprisingly enough, in this car. It's just how it is. There's no sport mode. there really should be a sport mode, because this car could actually benefit from it, right? You can keep the RPMs a little bit higher for such a good driving vehicle as the Regal is. There's no sport mode. There are also no paddle shifters, which is disappointing. I want to be able to shift my gears manually sometimes. Yes, you can move the gate shifter into the manual mode and shift gears that way, but paddles are much more convenient. And again, no sport mode, no paddle, sort of strange, especially considering that this is a somewhat sporty vehicle. But overall, I'm very happy with how the Regal drives. Very smooth, very quiet. It handles excellently on the curves, very composed ride. You can even, throw into a corner around 40 miles an hour, and the back end still just comes right along. It doesn't let loose, so that's great. And again, this is the front-wheel drive model, not even the all-wheel drive model, which I'm sure would even handle just a little bit better. Now, there are a couple oddities about the car here. And one thing is that the remote actually has no trunk release. And, I got in the car thinking, okay, the remote has no trunk release, that's all right. I'll just open it from the inside. Well, you can't do that either. You can't open it from the remote. You can't open it from the inside. Strange, right? Yes. But there is a benefit. The trunk release is actually the bottom of the Buick logo. So you press the bottom of the logo and the trunk opens. Technically, it's a hatch. But anywho, very unique, I will say. Reminds me of opening a Bentley boot, but instead it's a Buick hatch. So I'm not sure. As from a convenience perspective, it's not terribly convenient. In fact, it's somewhat obnoxious at times, but it's really cool. So go figure that one out. I don't know how that got through, but maybe next year we'll see a interior trunk release. That would be pretty convenient. Yes. This car really is a joy to drive. I really appreciated the handling dynamics and the acceleration power, even from the standard engine, which is the only engine available on the entire Regal lineup, minus, of course, the GS high performance model, which gets a 3.6 liter V6, which is a pretty standard powerhouse engine for GM's entire brand. When you want to, you can really just put your foot down all the way to the floor. That turbo just boosts you right out, all that torque. It's really fantastic, honestly. The transmission is very quick to respond to. You just snap it. This clicks right up into place. Very smooth too, not to mention quick. Handling is really one of this vehicle's strong suits. In addition to being relatively powerful and agile, you can really throw it into the corners, and it's actually pretty fun. Take a corner here. Just very, very responsive, very smooth. Ooh. Wow. Yeah. Pretty quick too. Pretty quick. Yeah. Get you in trouble, so watch out. But overall, I feel that Buick has done a good job introducing the all-new Regal into the market. You have a newer, updated, streamlined style, a larger feeling interior that's more open and more driver-focused, and then the entire driving experience is excellent. We have two fantastic powertrains. The GS Regal sees a 3.6 liter V6, and then the turbocharged 4-cylinder is more than adequate for the rest of the lineup. And I can again appreciate that they put an engine in that is more than adequate. Even in the most basic models, people will be very satisfied with the performance of this vehicle. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode and review of the 2018 Buick Regal. Take care.